Speaking German with native speakers is tough. It can be incredibly frustrating when you can't understand everything that they're saying. They speak too quickly for you to understand, and you don't know how to answer their questions properly. So today I'm going to teach you a few tips that can help you to improve your German fluency, and most of these you can do right now today, and you can use them in your next conversation that you have in German. One thing that I wish more people would talk about when it comes to listening comprehension is you don't need to understand every single word. There have been countless times when I didn't understand a word in a conversation that I was having. That happens all the time in conversations I have in English. I'm old and my hearing isn't as good as it once was. When I was young and my hearing was good, I didn't listen as well then either because I was usually distracted by something else. The point is, you don't need to understand everything. Start by listening just to pay attention to the places where the verb goes. The beginning of the sentence, usually near the subject. Usually this is within the first couple of words within the sentence. If you pay close attention here, you can hear who or what is being talked about and the main idea, which is the verb. If you hear a form of haben, sein, or werden, be on the lookout for a secondary verb at the end of the sentence or clause. These are words that trigger words in the perfect tense used to talk about the past or the future tenses when you're using werden. Once you know what the subject and the verb are, context will probably play a pretty big role in the parts that you need to understand. If you don't understand a word, listen carefully to the words and sentences used around it. Maybe you can figure out something based on context. Maybe you could even use one thing to infer another. Generally, when you're listening, you can safely ignore things like articles, possessives, and a whole host of other words. Yes, these words have meaning, and they change the meaning and intent of the sentences, but if you already know the word order, you don't really need to pay attention to the case system and all of that other stuff. Again, this is when listening, not when you're speaking. It's for figuring out what someone said to you so that you can respond. This is terrible advice if you're trying to learn the intricacies of the German language or pass some sort of exam. This advice is simply for when you are in the middle of a conversation and you're trying to survive that encounter without embarrassing yourself. Hey Tim, was hast du nach der WW gemacht? Wir haben lange nach dir gesucht, aber du warst schon weg. Maria und ich sind essen gegangen. This is a super simplistic example, but if you didn't already know the word that I made up for the purposes of making sure that no one knew what it was, you should be able to infer that it was a party or a gathering or something that the recipient was also at. One thing that I think is underutilized and criminally undertaught is the idea of internalizing some basic sentence components so that you can use this to spice up your sentences. Short prepositional phrases like mit dem Bus, im Sommer, nach Hause, or in die Ferien gehen. Time components like heute Morgen, morgen früh, am Donnerstag, and general time-telling phrases. Verb and preposition combinations like auf etwas warten, an etwas liegen, sich an etwas gewöhnen, an etwas glauben, sich auf etwas freuen, sich für etwas interessieren, über etwas nachdenken, and a whole lot more. If you want a giant list of these things, I made my own list that includes over 150 verb and preposition pairings that will come in handy in a whole host of situations. There's a link in the description for that. This is the tip on my list that takes the most preparation and memorization, but it really boils down to frequency of vocabulary and phrases. Don't just learn one word at a time. That's incredibly inefficient. Start learning phrases that you can use in a whole host of situations. Im Sommer bin ich nach Deutschland gereist. In the summer, I traveled to Germany. Im Sommer habe ich Fußball gespielt. In the summer, I played soccer. Er hat im Sommer ein neues Auto gekauft. He bought a new car in the summer. A kind of secondary tip that you can use from this same idea is to vary the way that you start your sentences. In the first two examples, I used im Sommer at the beginning of the sentence. In the last example, I started with the subject, which is what you're probably more used to. This variation can make you sound more conversational and generally just less boring. Conjunctions and relative clauses can really expand the way that you express yourself in German. These are basically ways to connect one sentence to another or words that allow you to combine thoughts into one sentence. Start by learning the coordinating conjunctions, which don't make you learn any new word order. Then move to the subordinating conjunctions. Once you figure out how to use these things, your sentence length will expand exponentially, and you will be amazed at how well you can communicate when using them. Meine Mutter geht gerne ins Kino, aber mein Vater bleibt lieber zu Hause. My mother likes to go to the movie theater, but my father prefers to stay at home. Ich kann heute nicht mitkommen, denn ich habe schon einen Termin. I can't come along today because I already have a meeting. Als ich ein Kind war, hatte ich einen sehr süßen Hund namens Cookie. When I was a child, I had a very cute dog named Cookie. Da der Professor nicht zum Unterricht gekommen ist, müssen die Studenten nicht zum Unterricht kommen. Because the professor didn't come to class, the students don't have to go to class. Die schöne Frau, die ich gestern im Geschäft getroffen habe, möchte mit mir ins Restaurant gehen. The beautiful woman whom I met yesterday in the store would like to go to a restaurant with me. Next up, we have the idea of using the question to answer the question. Most questions that people will ask you include a lot of wording that you need in order to answer the same question. Prepositional phrases will already be in the correct case, so when you answer the question, all you need to do is use the same phrase that they did whenever they asked the question, but just put it into a statement instead. This is also super easy with yes-no style questions to simply switch the subject and verb, or switch out du for ich if needed, and then say it as a statement. Hast du einen Hund? Do you have a dog? Ja, ich habe einen Hund. Yes, I have a dog. Gibt es ein Kino in dieser Stadt? Is there a movie theater in this city? Ja, es gibt ein Kino in dieser Stadt. Yes, there is a movie theater in this city. Warum kommst du nicht mit? Why aren't you coming along? Ich komme nicht mit, weil ich kein Geld habe. I am not coming along because I don't have any money. While most of the tips in this video so far have focused on what you can do as a listener to improve your speaking skills, there is one big thing that you can add to your sentences to make yourself sound a lot more fluent. Learning about how to use modal particles can make people think that you really know your stuff. The best part is, you don't actually need to know all that much German in order to make use of these little words. Modal particles are like ja, doch, halt, eben, or even einmal. These are words that are kind of thrown into sentences to make things sound more conversational. They change the intonation in similar ways that English speakers do with the inflection or tone of our voice. For example, ist ja ein Junge, weißt du? He's a boy, you know? Wir sind doch ins Kino gegangen. We did, in fact, go to the movies. Hör mal zu, ich mach das nicht. Listen up, I'm not doing that. Ich wollte nur einmal sagen, dass deine Haare wunderschön sind. I just wanted to say that your hair is wonderfully beautiful. If you want to learn more about these little words, I made a whole lesson just about modal particles and how you can use them in sentences. I've linked that video over here. I'll see you there. Bis dann. Tschüss.